We start with breaking news and the extraordinary power struggle playing out among the president, states, and the courts. Illinois just sued the Trump administration to prevent the deployment of Texas National Guard troops to the city of Chicago, a move Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker labeled a, quote, Trump invasion. And the city's Democratic mayor, Brandon Johnson, just signed an executive order establishing, quote, ice-free zones on city property after a week of ramped-up immigration enforcement and tense anti-ICE.
There is absolutely no way you could do that. Now, if they want to argue that you can't send the National Guard into the city proper, okay, like they can't march down Main Street, but to establish an ice-free zone, no, that's not how that works. You can't just say that this is a public area, but the ICE agents are not allowed there. That's not how that works. It's just amazing. I don't know how they're gonna end up spinning this, but let's let this carry on.
Protests.
We need ICE out of our city so that we can continue to focus on the strategies that have been working to drive violent crime down.
That is total bullshit. So everyone knows the stats for driving violent crime down. If he wants to go ahead and say that, we're on a downward trend. Okay, maybe that's true. I would have to scrutinize your numbers there, good sir. But being down on a downward trend and still having multiple shootings a day and several homicides, many homicides per weekend is not a good thing. All of these cities, all they would have to do to tamp this down, I would even grant them a little bit of grace. If they think it's gonna play bad with their voter base, why not just say this? It could just be a handwritten note to the court section of whatever municipality you're in, saying that if you have an illegal immigrant that has been arrested for multiple violent offenses, let's say more than one. How about more than one? How about with a weapon? Anything with a weapon and above. A robbery, a violent assault. Then we will turn them over to ICE. At least that. I guarantee you. So ICE is there trying to, at this point now, they're just going to blanket grab everybody because this is the way law enforcement works. If you can grant them the targeted people that they're looking for, they want to get the violent people out of these neighborhoods. And I guarantee you the neighborhood wants those violent people out of there as well. So if you can give ICE the leverage and basically essentially just help them out a little bit and say, hey, when we arrest somebody for murder, we'll turn them over to you. When we arrest somebody for rape, for robbery, for any crime with a weapon, we'll turn them over to you. And then just delineate and say misdemeanors and below, we're not gonna assist you, and instruct your court section, do not assist. If somebody's arrested for a misdemeanor and they're an illegal, then we're not gonna cooperate with ICE. You know what? I guarantee you would still be above the midway point on that. Like for the most part, do hardcore MAGA people, they want everybody out? Sure. But for the most part, the majority of the people says, listen, if a guy gets caught jaywalking, or he gets into a bar fight with one of his buddies and they both get arrested, that's not the number one guy on our list. It's not on the majorities on the majority of the bell curves list, right? The Pareto bell curve, that pinnacle, that where the majority sit, is not people saying everybody and their kids throw them out. It's not. You have the people on the one side that are saying don't kick anybody out, and people on the other side saying kick everybody out. Within the middle of that is a common sense theme that says, listen, if this guy's putting up drywall, yes, he's taking jobs away. Listen, I'm not saying I agree, disagree. I'm just telling you guys what the average person is thinking right now. If this guy's putting up drywall and he's paying his taxes and he's feeding his family and doing what he's got to do, he's not the number one guy on our target list. You have a shitload of absolute violent thugs that are out there, and they're causing havoc throughout all cities. If they were to go, the average life of the people within those cities would improve dramatically. I see it every single day. I do. That's what needs to be done. And if these guys would do that just for a second and take their heads out of their asses just for a minute and stop playing, everyone plays politics. But I think they could spin it in a way that it would still work for them. They could possibly get reelected and possibly get out of single-digit approval ratings if they just said, listen, this is what we're going to do. Maybe they'll get 30% of their constituency that disagree with them. But if we get a person that's been arrested for a violent robbery with a firearm, we will turn him over to ICE. I mean, what like you're gonna get you're gonna get the left wingers that say due process. You're gonna get all that stuff. But on the whole, I still have to believe that the majority of the population would still be on your side for something like that. I have to believe that. If I can't believe that, then we're absolutely toast. And yeah, just
ICE lies and people die. We cannot allow this to continue. We must take action more drastic than what we have taken before, because what we are seeing is a more radical attempt to undermine our democracy.
It means more critical legal battles on the president's crime crackdown after a chaotic 48 hours of emergency rulings in Portland. There, a Trump-appointed judge twice blocked the White House from deploying troops from Oregon to other states to the city and accused the administration of seeking to circumvent her orders. I'm joined right now by a terrific group of reporters who cover all of these issues in depth, including Sungmin Kim, who covers the White House for the Associated Press and also been covering immigration for so many years. So, Sungmin, take us inside the White House, how they're viewing this moment, because Trump is getting slapped down by the courts, but they're trying to figure out other ways to circumvent what the courts are saying. They're not backing down here.
They're certainly not backing down. They believe that the president has extreme power to dispatch these troops into these cities that he views as lawless. My question for the White House is, how far does this power actually go? How far do they think they can go, particularly when they are seeing resistance from the courts? To get a handle into the White House thinking, I was really struck by a stream of social media posts from Stephen Miller, one of the president's top aides who's overseeing Homeland Security. And he says the president has, quote, undisputed authority under the law and the Constitution to essentially protect federal property that's coming, he says, under assault by these protesters. But looking at the reports from the ground, looking at how the AP reporters on the ground are describing it, obviously there have been times when the protests have flared up back in June, but these have been relatively small.
Okay, but that's not the point, right? The point is he on legal authority to protect federal property? And I think she would have to agree that the answer is absolutely yes. Right. She can't go ahead and say, so she has to spin it. She has to spin it. The spin right there, if you can grab it, is that, all right, yeah, there have been protests and riots. However, that was like a month or two ago. So now we're good. Now there's really small demonstrations. Doesn't matter if they're small demonstrations. What it matters is that he has the authority to do that. And if that's what he's doing, then he's under his authority. You cannot have National Guard just walking down Main Street and locking people up. That we all know. That we understand. ICE can. ICE has the authority to go into wherever is public, wherever it wants. ICE can go wherever it wants. Obviously, like if it's a private establishment, they have to have some sort of probable cause to gain entry. But any publicly if you can walk into it, so can ICE. Not true for the National Guard. If you can walk into it, so can Homeland Security. It's called Homeland Security. That's the name. It's kind of in the name. So they're going to obfuscate here, and they're going to try to, wiggle around the notion that is this legal when it absolutely is.
These are nightly demonstrations that have been, no more than a few dozen people. And that's also the rationale cited by the Trump-appointed judge in her rulings when she ruled against the administration.
Yeah, the judge is Karen Immergut. She's a U.S. District Judge from the District of Oregon. She was appointed by Trump in 2019. She was actually confirmed by the Senate by a voice vote back then. She's she's worked for Chief Justice Roberts, George W. Bush, and the like. You can see there on your screen some of her background. But Stephen Miller, as Sungmin was just referring to, among the things he was tweeting about this weekend was about this judge, calling it a, quote, legal insurrection. That was the words from the president's, one of his aides.
Yeah, and when you talk about the type of language that could be problematic, that could bring unintended consequences to our judges, I think that's among them, because insurrection is a crime. It's a serious crime.
Wow. Did you guys catch that one? So tweeting a tweet or a post with just the saying insurrection could result in violence to people. That's what she just said. Anyone remember the last 5 years? Did I forget something? There was something that happened where insurrection was a super hot topic. They've been saying insurrection since J6 every single day. Every day. Every day you can find it somewhere. They've been saying that was an insurrection. An insurrection where nobody died. Only 2 people that died were part of the protests. So That's how you labeled the other side, as insurrectionists. And you've done it ad nauseum for years. And some guy does a tweet where he says it. And the only reason people know that he said it now is because you put it up on your screen. Because I guarantee you the majority of the population first of all, have no idea who he is. And secondly, have definitely no idea what he tweeted or X'd or whatever, posted it. I don't even know what the hell to call it anymore. It still should be called a tweet, but whatever. That is amazing to me. It is, the fact that she's going to say that, like, I thought that they would kind of like glaze over that. Okay, yeah, he used insurrection. He shouldn't do that. It's a judge, whatever. But like, you're saying that the use of that term can bring about violence to the counterpart, to the other side.
In America. And so I think as we continue to talk about political rhetoric and how it could lead to violence, I think there's room to be concerned about exactly the phrasing used when we're talking about judges' orders. But also, even that phrasing is a distraction when you actually look at what the judge said to Sung Min's point, which is that she believes the Trump administration is using false pretexts to justify sending the National Guard into cities. And I think that's really what the Trump administration needs to reckon with, is why are they really sending the National Guard in, and is it legal?
Yeah, and those are all key questions. Also, the key question is, how do Democrats respond?
Wow. So those were actually the points. Why and is it legal? And they're about to pivot off of this. And I think they're about to pivot off of this because they know what the answer to this is. It's so apparent. It's like I hate to reiterate things, but if it's a federal building, so essentially what you want is you want the National Guard to go in there and establish a perimeter for any one of your locations that you're looking for, so that you don't have to utilize agents that you could be using on the exterior to guard the interior, right? To guard your facility. For example, there are ICE facilities throughout the country. It's an actual physical building. Of course, why can't you have National Guard there? If there are protests that are happening there daily, I don't care if there are 12 people, I don't care if there's one person, I don't care if there's 100 people. If you have a protest at a facility, you can have a few National Guard there to secure the facility, right? So that you're not pulling resources outside of enforcement action to guard your facility. You have the National Guard there. They're not marching down the street. This is a nice facility. We're going to protect it. Same for the Homeland Security. Homeland Security, let's say they set up a command center somewhere. It could be a temporary command center. It could be NYPD has them. A lot of the police departments have them. They have mobile command centers. They have a trailer that goes out there, sets up shop. You have your radio stations there. You have your maps there. You're dispatching the units from that location. It doesn't have to be an actual building. In the moment of that trailer gets there, that's a federal security, a federal location. That little trailer, and you can have a couple National Guard there as well. Why? Because if you have whatever manpower you have, you don't want to utilize people just to defend that one area when you need them out in the field. You need them doing enforcement action. You need them doing the task that they're there for, not just standing around there protecting the building. Protecting whatever it is. The National Guard is a very good resource when it comes to that, to give protection to federal institutions. It seems like that's what they're doing. It seems like they can't answer the question, which is why they're going to pivot off of this now and go to something else. I have no idea where they're about to go to, but they're definitely not going to answer those two key questions.
We saw this lawsuit that has now just been filed by Illinois. Of course, Democrats run Illinois. J.B. Pritzker, the Democratic governor there, has been out front on this. Gavin Newsom, too, pushing back after they got involved over the weekend as Trump tried to send the National Guard there into Oregon as well. Trump got pushed. The administration got rejected by the courts at the moment on that. Gavin Newsom tweeted, "This is a breathtaking abuse of the law and power by the President of the United States. America is on the brink of martial law. Do not be silent." That's what he said on Sunday night. What do you make of the Democrats' handling of this issue? Because, of course, crime, immigration have been issues that have tripped them up year cycle after cycle. But this moment is a little bit different.
They seem to be racing to challenge Trump, and that seems to be the bigger imperative, to sort of show strength in confronting Trump, as opposed to addressing some of these issues that at the margins they talk about. There's, I believe, the mayor in Memphis has talked about sort of a little bit more of a law and order approach. Of course, he's also out there sort of questioning whether or not the authorities are there for the National Guard deployment there. So it seems like every time we have this conversation, you toss to Gavin Newsom. We have a Gavin Newsom soundbite or tweet and a J.B. Pritzker soundbite or tweet, which tells me they want to talk about it. And I think that tells us something going forward in this entire entire confrontation between Trump and the courts, Trump and the Democrats, Trump and Congress, which I think we'll get to in another block. But there are certain Democrats that have figured out how to harness this energy, and they seem to be relishing the conflict, if not the overall contours of the fight.
I know this show is inside politics, and of course we're talking about the politics of it all, but particularly in a city like Chicago, if you're really talking about the crime in the city and the root causes of crime in the city of Chicago, which even its leaders know that is a problem, they've been working to address it, it's not related to ICE and immigration enforcement, not directly. We're talking about young black men, often in black neighborhoods, that are the victims and the perpetrators of most of the crime, that the murders, the homicide race that gets a lot of the attention. And so I really hope and would wish that the Trump administration listen to and censor the people that are actually on the ground, boots on the ground, trying to address this, because they're not saying send National Guard to ICE facilities. They're saying give us the resources and the programming and the funding to really get to what we know are the root causes of crime.
Okay, you guys may know where the root causes are, but you have no idea how to solve it. Money's not going to do it. Sorry, honey. Money is not going to solve that issue. The issue is that the left is blinded by programs and resources and this and that. It's not going to solve jack shit. The people that are bad, they need to be arrested. I guarantee you within that city, it's probably less than a percentage point that is the real issue. And those guys and a few gals, but mostly guys and probably young guys. And she is right. She's more right than wrong, right? Where it is an inner city issue, it is a minority issue, not so much an ICE issue. However, twofold. One, more money being thrown in it is not going to solve the issue. The issue is a societal, cultural issue that is going to take a long time to fix. And it's probably never going to get fixed because everyone likes to obfuscate and talk around what the issues actually are, whether it be, it's a culture issue. How do you fix culture? You have to change it. That's the only way. How do you change it? It takes a long time. It takes a long time. It takes incentives. It takes a change in the mindset of the people and promoting people that are doing the good things that you want to see go forward. If you wanted to incentivize families to stay together, that would be a good thing. You know, if you wanted to incentivize schools, not just pushing these kids out and maybe giving them like on-the-job training, programming, whether it be like a BOCES program or something like that, where they can actually, don't just tell them, finish school and go to college, get some BS thing, and then you'll be fine. No, you're not going to be fine. You're not going to be fine. The jobs that are needed in this day and age are not being pushed as something that's attractive to young people. But again, a cultural shift needs to take place. Money is not going to do it. ICE is not going to do it either. However, what ICE can do is, even though she is right in the fact that that's where the majority of the crime comes from, some of the crime is coming from illegals. Let's be real. Let's be real. Some of the crime is coming from illegals. Why can't we get those out? Why can't we get them out? Is it an issue? Why is that such an issue? Why is it an issue when all of these places would have to do is they would just have to cooperate with ICE, and they would just say, listen, you think they want to send all these resources there? You think they want to just be blowing the overtime and just sending all these guys over there, when all they would need would be a little station outside of the courthouse. Somebody rings them up. Hey, we arrested 2 people today. They were illegals. You can come pick them up. All right. Sounds good. They wouldn't have to be marching throughout the city looking for these people. The people that are bad are committing crimes constantly. They're not hiding. They're in plain sight. They're constantly committing crimes. Get them out. Call us. Call ICE and say, hey, we got one. You can have them. Because I guarantee you, on the distribution of people, if you look at a bell curve, the average person in the middle is not going to really care that a drywall illegal worker, an illegal immigrant that's laying down drywall, is publicly intoxicated, or had a fight with his brother. If he committed a misdemeanor offense and he's a hardworking guy and he's paying taxes and he's taking care of his kids, he's not the number one guy on our list. The average person wants the criminals to get out. If you're causing a havoc in a city, that you should be very, very careful and quiet to be in. I always equate it to my children. When it's bedtime, if they're super quiet and I forget about them, guess what? They're staying up past their bedtime. They haven't been brought to my attention. They haven't committed a crime. If you're illegal and you're committing a crime, you're brought to my attention, you should be taken out. Put back to where you go back to where you came from. That's it. That's the way it should go down. So, like I said, I give her props for actually saying that, but it's still ignoring the other point.
I'm in our city.
And one of the real issues is that if there may not be coordination between
Right.
what's happening on the ground with these, especially with Brandon Johnson, the Democratic mayor, essentially saying that not to cooperate with these federal law enforcement, that has significant ramifications about when these troops are on the ground, how they're going to respond to what they're seeing.
How they're going to respond, what kind of information they're getting from federal officials. We know the Oregon governor has been on the phone with the White House. But yes, there's this just really just tense clash, particularly between blue cities and blue states and this administration. And I want to go back to what you were talking about with Hans and talking about the president's relative strength when it comes to crime and immigration and the Democrats' relative weaknesses on those issues.
That
is true.
Before you continue, I just want to show viewers the poll on that issue. 48-47, Trump approval, disapproval on the issue of crime. Better than most issues right now. But then the question about sending the National Guard to big cities, that's a different question because a lot of voters, a majority of voters, according to this poll, believe he's gone too far. 53% say he's gone too far.
Right, that was the point I was going to make. If you look at the actual tactics and what nonpartisan polling says, Americans do oppose these tactics. Now, does public sentiment deter the administration? I'm not quite sure because, as we've discussed, this has been a long time coming, particularly from those who are among his closest aides now.
Yeah. Neither of those polls are blowouts either. Those are both very close. And when the White House sees close polls like that, they think it's an issue they can win, especially when they revert to what they always do, which is Trump's gut.
Right.
And the president is convinced that this is an issue that favors him. And I suspect, therefore, we'll keep seeing it in the news and him being aggressive on it. But what struck me about those polls is just how close they are.
Yeah.
The gone too far, though, number was 52%, and that number is just increasing as the skirmishes between the blue cities and states and the White House continues.
Yeah.
It's not like he's gaining support as he continues to push to send the National Guard into cities where they do not want him to do so.
And I suspect as we get closer to the midterms, the more of those skirmishes that we shall see. We'll see how.
I think it is playing into his hand, unfortunately. Again, because like I've said many, many times over, I think that these cities should get exactly what they deserve. That's my personal view. I think that they voted these people in. They need to sit with the effects of who they voted in, and then just wallow in it. As New York City as a perfect example, New York City back in the early 90s was around 2,000 murders a year. So when Mamdani is on the forefront, he's almost likely going to be elected. He's almost there. With Mamdani being elected, will the crime go up even more? Absolutely, it will. However, you're still going to be in the hundreds of murders a year. New York City is not going to hit 1,000 murders a year, maybe not ever. And a lot of people don't understand why that is, because the city does feel worse, as bad as it was then, and it is as bad as it was then. The main issue and the main difference between, guys, if you're still here, please subscribe. I always forget to say it, but please just subscribe. The main issue as to why, in my opinion, the murder rate probably will never get back to it once was, is a very, very weird thing called cell phones. So early 90s, not too many cell phones running around, if any. So when a crime happened, when somebody got shot, what did people have to do? They had to go to a payphone, dial 911, and they had to give an estimate area of where this person got shot was, because obviously the payphone isn't directly adjacent to the body of the person that just got shot. So the response time was pretty grim, not the best. Maybe a cop would get there, finally, then be able to radio to the ambulance where the person was, and then we can take them to the hospital. So you have to look at the shooting stats, and the shooting stats don't look so good. Like the shooting stats are through the roof. I'm not saying they're 90s numbers, but I think that is one of the issues that people kind of don't understand really, is that our technology has allowed us to save a lot of lives. That doesn't mean that the violence level is as dramatically low as the numbers may prove them out to be. But these cities are going to suffer a great deal, and they have to suffer a great deal before the people that are there are willing to turn them around. It's the people that are there that need to go through the shit, and that's the only way. When the nice areas of a city finally get inundated with crime, then you'll see the voting going another direction. As of now, in my personal opinion, I think that these cities should get what they deserve. They voted for this. Let them have it. Unfortunately, the people that are in the ghettos, that are good working people, they don't go out to vote. and maybe they need to learn that they have to do that. The people that are voting are the people on the outskirts, in the communities that are relatively still well maintained. The violence isn't going through the roof, and that's why they think they can bring in democratic socialists to help everybody out, and they can be virtuous through him. But it's not going to work, and it's going to take time, and unfortunately, a lot of people are going to have to die before it gets fixed. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283 Talk on the X if you want to follow me there. If you please hit the subscribe button, it helps me out a lot. I'll see you on the next video. I'm John Suttle. Take care.